Hi, so right now we are going to go over the tools for the job. Now, this looks like a lot. There's a couple of doubles, a couple of little things. All these tools are something we're going to need from start to finish. There will be some added extra type of tools slash supplies that we're going to need. But anything that we need for each video that we're going to do or lesson that we're going to do, we'll lay out the tools for you on those specific jobs. This is just kind of an intro, like an overview, because if you're looking to get started into this project, we kind of want you to know, basically encompass everything that it entails, right? So there's going to be some costs to it. There's going to be some other things that you're going to have to do to go out and get for tools wise, borrow from friends, rent from Home Depot, I don't know, whatever you're going to do. But I'll give you a few different options, and then you can kind of get an idea or get the overall impression of how this is going to go for you and your situation. So what our goal is to show you how to do this basically if you are working in your living room, or if you're working on your condo deck, or your front yard, backyard, shed, garage, big shop, whatever. We're going to try to get everything from A to Z on all that stuff for you, so that you're not limited by space and that type of a thing. Basically, it's just going to be your overall gusto and the will to do the job is really going to be the end all be all, because we're going to show you all the little details and try to give you as much confidence as possible. This is not as hard as it looks. It just takes a little bit of patience and it takes a little bit of time, and we want to make it as fun as possible for you. So going from the far left of the table all the way over, obviously we got the silent hammer, so it's our rubber mallet. We just have a regular hammer, that kind of thing. You're not going to use too much on your finished projects, but here and there you're going to need to hammer in some nails that didn't go in all the way, that type of a thing. Just take it easy with that stuff. Green tape holding stuff in place. You got your screws. They'll be all different depending on what you buy and what you want to use. And you'll see them through different videos, and that's what I mean. There'll be a few other things that'll show up here and there. These are disposables, that type of thing. The nails that we get for our nailer, you may or may not use a nailer, so that's up to you. I strongly suggest getting a nailer over pretty much anything else on this table. The nailer is going to be the thing that saves your life, and it's going to make things so much easier. There's a lot of people who do videos on this, on how to build these, and you'll hear me say it a few times during the lessons, is that they just blast screws right through the outside of the cabinet into the inside and do this and do that. I mean, you can cover them up with, wood filler, and you can fill them with Bondo and do all that great stuff, but that's not a true way to build a cabinet. I mean, that's a cabinet maker's nightmare. That's the way they used to do it 30, 40 years ago, not today. There's so many different ways to do it now that are just so much nicer, cleaner, and even stronger. Sandpaper, you're probably going to need the gamut from 80 grit all the way to 320, maybe even 400, depending on the materials that you're using. I usually go no more than 325 if you're using MDF. With melamine and all that stuff, you probably won't need it too much. There is, I don't have it on here, but I use a sealer paint, just like a regular bare paint from Home Depot type of a thing, to seal the edges on places that you need to seal the edges for melamine. So if you're using particle board or whatever, you're going to want to try to use that. You can just use an indoor type of a latex to do that, so that it doesn't get too much moisture in the actual wood itself. You're going to need a level slash angle measuring device to get that done. You're going to need a chisel or a set of chisels. Make sure they're sharp for this project. File, possibly, especially if you're using a harder wood or melamine, you're going to need a file for your edges and that stuff on the inside corners, that type of a thing. Same with these, same with the chisel and stuff. You'll need to make minor adjustments in your wood and just kind of tap them in and do all that stuff to get that out. If they're really sharp, you could actually just use the pressure, like hand pressure, to get that done. Measuring tape, obviously, you're going to need a drill. You want to get something that has a few settings on it that allows you to have that, it gives you that click like that when you get, so it stops at a certain point. You want something that gives you a little more control. There's a little finesse that's added to this. It's not just smash them up and get it all done, bang, bang, hoorah. It's not going to do the trick for you, especially when you come to your finishing and stuff. You'll create your own nightmare if you do it that way. Wood glue, I strongly suggest, it's not on here and I'm not here plugging a bunch of stuff. We're not sponsored by DeWalt or any of these other brands or whatever. But for the glue itself, I would never go with like a Titebond. You can go with the LePage. We go with a Red brand Titebond. Those glues don't expand when they're drying. Gorilla Glue will expand a little bit when drying, and it's a little bit unpredictable. So unless you have massive clamps like this, that glue's going to want to push the wood away from each other after it's in there, because it does some weird thing when it's drying. You can Google it and see how all that works, but definitely go with like a LePage or go with a Titebond. That's the way to go. You're probably, obviously, if you're going to have a nailer, you're going to need some sort of air. All right, so you're going to need compressed air. If you have a compressor or whatever at home, that's great. If you're already ready to rock, that's good. If you have to rent any of this stuff, you could probably do like the nailer and all that stuff in one day if you set yourself up properly, or 2 days if you're running into a little bit of a snag here and there. So renting is always a really good option. It's just you have to make sure that you're really prepared. You're going to need an orbital sander. Now, if you don't have one of these, they're really great to have it anyway. So I would go to, you know, Rona, Home Depot, whatever. They're probably anywhere between 30 and 60 bucks for an orbital sander, and it comes with a whole bunch of sandpaper that'll probably do the whole project for you that it comes in the box. I think this one specifically was like $39.99. So we're not dealing with, you know, stuff that's going to break the bank here. Now, when we get into these other fancy little dealios, what the heck is this? You probably know, but it's a router. It's a handheld router that will allow for you to do plunge stuff. This one here, it has an attachment that will allow it to do the plunge. The plunge you'll see in our intermediate and pro video. Basically, what that allows you to do is recess cuts within your wood and stuff, so you can recess like those joysticks in your console tops and things like that. You can freehand it with this. I highly do not suggest doing that until you're comfortable with it. But we will show you in our lessons and stuff on how to make jigs for that, so you can kind of run it in and get the perfect shape every time. This is a laminate trimmer router. This thing here says that it's not supposed to do what I use it for. I strongly suggest not doing stuff out of the box that says that you're not supposed to do. But this thing is a pig. It will run through 3/4 inch MDF with a little bit of snarl, but it will do it. And you can make it happen all day long. Now, if you go with one of these two and you can only afford one, I would definitely go with the laminate trimmer. It'll hog out whatever you want. The only option that it doesn't have is that plunge option, but you can set its depths, right? So it'll sit at whatever depth you want it, and then you can just run it. And it's a little bit easier to freehand if you need it, or for a smaller space in a jig. The big thing that you're going to need all these things for, if you don't want to get involved in the recess part of it, what you need it for is the 3-wing slot cutter for the T-mold, okay? So right early on, right out of the gate, after we cut our parts, after we do our things, when you see in these lessons, the second thing to do before we put it together is we cut out that little slot for the T-mold in all the pieces wherever they need it before we put it together. Okay, so this is also one of the hardest things to find, is this slot cutter. There's only a few people or a few places online that sell it, especially for the measurements that you need. We are one of them. There's 2 others. We will leave those all in the PDFs and stuff like that for any specific tools that are really hard to find. Anything else that we don't mention, you can probably find at Rona and Home Depot. There's not much point in me telling you to find it at a garage sale. I mean, you can probably get one of these nailers at a garage sale for 10 bucks this weekend if you want to go there and, you know, do that, so that keeps your thing on the cheap instead of renting it. These type of things you can't, and I would strongly suggest buying them new. And this one's a 1/4 inch. Both of these routers will hold this 1/4 inch. Just make sure that when you're thinking about what you're doing, the bigger the project you have, the more stable your router has to be, because you are going around the edge. And if you want to do that by hand, you can, but I can pretty much guarantee, especially if it's your first time, no matter how many times you like play around with it on a scrap piece of wood or whatever and practice, I pretty much guarantee when you're going around that corner on that piece that matters, you're gonna give it a little buzz, like a bzz, and then this thing goes on an angle and it cuts out a big little hole in the edge, and I'll show you in some videos on what it'll do. So yeah, you know what to look forward to, so it's good. Another good bit here is the step bit. Now this bit works great for wood, works great for melamine if it's sharp, that type of a thing. When you buy it, it'll say it's for metal, rock and wood, that type of a thing, or stone, I guess, like cinder block type of a thing. Never use this on any sort of ceramic or stone, because it'll tear this thing totally apart regardless of what it says. Metal's fine. If you have a metal console top, or you're making your console out of metal or aluminum or anything like that, this will chew right through that, and it'll do that same thing for wood too, and you can get these sharpened. These are very expensive, so they start, I think we're in Canada, so it starts at about 70 to 80 bucks Canadian, which would be about 50 bucks US, 60 bucks US. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them on Home Depot, Rona, wherever, that's all good too. We'll have a link to that as well, so you know what spec to do it. It has to be 1 1/8 inch is what you want. That'll be your best friend. This is what'll drill your holes for your console, your buttons, anywhere you're putting a arcade button, like full-size arcade button, that's what kind of bit you're going to want to use. So that's secret tip number 1 right there. Other than that, these clamps, I'm not sure, depending on where you live and that type of a thing, if you can find a place to rent one of these, okay? They get pretty expensive. I think they are probably in the neighborhood of 100 bucks each. In Canada, probably 60 to 75 bucks in the US. This is a Jorgensen. They don't make them anymore through these guys, but they have a bunch of different ones. We call them the Big Berthas. Get them in really long lengths. They even come bigger than this. These are nice to go on the opposite sides of the cabinet when it's drying. You only need it for dry time. They only need them for like 2 hours. So we will show you a couple different ways to get away with doing this without having to use these. But if you can get these, this is going to make your life so much better. If you make more than one of these arcade cabinets, you're going to want to invest in these. They hold their value, so if you only use them once or twice, you can probably get a good, decent price back for them. If you sell them online through Craigslist, Marketplace, whatever, people are always looking for these, which also gives you the hint and the tip and the trick to go on Marketplace and Craigslist to look for a used pair. So there you go. Other than that, like I said before, I'm going to go over each one of these tools. We'll show you how they work right as soon as we're doing the actual project itself. We'll show you how to load and unload the nail gun, and we'll show you how to set the router and all that fun stuff. So we are going to walk you through this step by step. So sit tight, take a break, enjoy your coffee, and we'll go through it together.